What is up, guys? Welcome back to another GeekaWhat video, and in today's video I'm going to be building the ultimate streaming setup for 2021. I'm going to run you through all the peripherals and streaming gear I selected and why, go through the full PC build and PC specs that's going to power up the setup, talk about our insane monitors a little bit later, and run through a setup guide of the Elgato Facecam and Wave microphone. Elgato actually reached out and wanted to make today's video possible. They sent the Facecam out and I've heard so many good things about it online, how it changes the game for streamers out there, but also people on Office and Zoom calls and that kind of thing. So we're going to look at that a little bit later. Let's kick things off by actually covering all the peripherals and streaming gear and then moving on to the PC a little bit later. As far as peripherals are concerned, I've actually got a trio in from Corsair. This is the K70 RGB 10 keyless design. It builds on the legendary K70 platform, but without the number pad. As someone who never uses the number pad, I really like to see this. And they even actually have like a 60% design. Personally, not a fan myself. I need the kind of extra arrow keys and the delete keys and the function buttons. But for me, this is a perfect middle ground. The next component then on the list is actually our gaming mouse. Now this is going to come down a lot to personal preference more than anything else. I've picked up the Corsair M65 RGB Elite as it's actually the mouse that I daily drive on my own setup day in, day out. If you'd like to see a full setup tour here in the office, you can find our studio tour video in the card section now. As far as the headset's concerned then, I've got Corsair's HS60 Haptic. There are higher end options available on the market. Their own Virtuoso design is really good. This headset as well also includes haptic feedback technology, which physically vibrates the ear cups on the headset if a bomb goes off in a game. They're super immersive and they look really cool with that hydro dipped camo as well. Really nice option from Corsair as far as the peripherals go. Rounding off the peripherals is an extended mousepad from Corsair. Once again, this is the MM700 RGB. Any extended mousepad with a design that you like will work well. I quite like the neutral black aesthetic. It will protect the desk, and the RGB around the outside is a nice little touch. This one is a little bit of a big boy. In fact, it's absolutely massive, but will work really nicely. It also has a USB pass-through as well on the controller, so if you want to plug in a memory stick or an extra peripheral, it's just nice to have that at easy reach on your desk, especially considering we haven't got a USB pass-through on this 10 keyless K70 keyboard design. You will get it if you step up the range and go for a bigger keyboard option. So that's the peripherals, but what about the streaming gear and the PC that we're going to be using? I'm going to cover these in more detail a little bit later on, but the microphone is Elgato's Wave 1. It's honestly amazing. I take this microphone with me absolutely everywhere. This is not a sponsored comment. You know, I'm working with Elgato on this video, but this thing's great. Hence why it's a bit scratched up. It goes in my bag, and if I need to do a voiceover for a video while I'm traveling or while I've got the day off or while I'm at home, this thing is honestly great. It's USB as well, which means you haven't got to plug it into a preamp or anything like that. You simply take it straight into the computer, USB feed, and you can record into any voice software. It works well, of course, with OBS Streamlabs, XSplit, or whatever your preferred streaming software is. It's also got a feature as well which stops your audio from peaking, which is really nice. That means that when you shout, it will just automatically adjust that gain down on the fly. And that's an issue you'll have if you go for a higher end XLR microphone. It won't give you that kind of protection. This is geared up especially for streamers or for jumping on video calls in audio environments that might not be ideal. It sounds great as well. As we'll learn later on in the video, we'll do proper audio tests with everything a bit later on. As far as the video goes though, this is where Elgato's brand new Facecam comes in. I'm genuinely really excited to take a look at this thing because it's not really a webcam. It's a streaming camera that can act as a webcam and has all the functionality of a webcam, but without the crap that often comes with it. Now, what exactly do I mean by that? It's always baffled me that you can get a phone with a really great camera and then buy a webcam for £100 or £200 and the performance just basically not be up to par. Thankfully, this is a different story. With a Sony sensor and direct software control over all of the camera's settings and attributes, it's set to be an awesome choice for streamers or those looking just to up their game when it comes to video calls. You can see just how much larger as well the lens is and the sensor on this than a typical webcam. It might look quite chunky, but that's because of all the extra processing power in the webcam. Now, this doesn't actually have a microphone built in. That might sound like a bit of a weird decision from Elgato, and at first I was a little bit torn. In fact, I still am. But when you take the power of something like the Wave 1 microphone as a budding streamer, suddenly it starts to make a lot more sense. Trying to fit as well a microphone into such a small form factor in a non-ideal location is never going to end particularly well, so I'm glad to see that Elgato have made that decision to not half-arse it, to not include one for the sake of it, and then for it to sound a little bit crap. As standard, it comes with a nice little monitor mount pre-installed, but if you take this off, you've got a standard tripod thread underneath, allowing you to mount this on basically anything, from Elgato's own multi-mounts to a cheap light stand off Amazon or a tripod, whatever it might be, it will fit perfectly. Plus, you've also got a USB-C connector at the rear, which is nice to see. Same with the keyboard, same with the microphone. Good to see USB-C being adopted everywhere. And you do, of course, get a standard USB-C to USB-A cable in the box. And I've looked at this already, it's really long, which is really good, because webcam cables are never ever long enough, ever. Now, there is one more thing from Elgato I've gone ahead and picked up for today's video, which is going to make a huge difference. Light is one of the most important things when it comes to a camera. If a camera hasn't got enough light, it tries to artificially boost the amount of light, and that's when you start getting noise and artifacting, and the image sort of goes downhill, really. Elgato's KeyLights are a really great option. These are the fully fledged KeyLights, but you can get KeyLight Airs as well, which will be plenty bright enough to give you a good image. In fact, 2 of these is probably overkill, but I said it was going to be the ultimate streaming setup, so that's why I've opted to go for these ones. Much like everything else, they have standard tripod mounts on every single side, so you haven't got to pick up any expensive proprietary mounts if you don't want to. And in the box, you actually get these fancy little desk stands. These actually solve one of the biggest problems I've had with studio lighting in a streaming setup for the longest time. To demonstrate my problem, I've picked up one of the many light stands we have in the office. These are what streamers previously had to use to mount lights on. And look how big they are. It's absolutely huge. These stands, by comparison, just clamp onto the desk itself. It makes way more sense. Why did no one think of that before? The biggest problem with these, though, is even when you've got them under a desk, you've got all this overhang at the back, which stops you putting the desk flush with the wall. That's obviously no longer a problem when you use the included keylight mounting. These are controllable as well through both an app on your phone and through Windows. They're adjustable as far as colour temperature is concerned, which we can match up with the Facecam in the software later to really give us optimal image quality. As I say, though, we're going to set all of that up in a moment. But there's there's 2 things we're missing from the setup: our monitors and the PC. And here it is. It weighs an absolute ton. If you'd like to learn more about the exact build process, we have done a dedicated video on this system. But in short, it's a Ryzen 9 powered RTX 3070 Ti beast of a PC build. With fast Gen 4 NVMe storage, 32GB of RAM, and an AORUS X570 master motherboard, it's a perfect system for a setup like this. I would recommend going for an RTX card if you can, as I think there are some tangible benefits for streamers out there. But at minimum, a Ryzen 5600X and an RTX 3060 Ti would be perfect for a setup like this if you don't want to spend a stupid amount of money on a really high-end system. I'll also link some great pre-built options in both the US and the UK in the description below, where availability might be that little bit better, at least at the moment. So we've talked about the PC, but there's one thing left to cover, and that is, of course, the monitors. Now, if I scoot the PC just this way a little bit, you should be able to see the monitor choices we've gone for. I've actually picked up 2 Gigabyte G32QCs. These are my favourite 32-inch monitors with a 1440p resolution, a 165Hz refresh rate, and just a great panel curve design. They work amazingly well. As much as I'm a fan of ultra-wides, for a streaming setup, it just doesn't work quite as well, as you want to be able to stream seamlessly at that 16:9 or 16:10 aspect ratio to give your viewers the best possible viewing experience. Having the second monitor allows you to monitor your stream viewership, monitor your chat, make sure you're all good to go, which is important. So having those 2 monitors is going to work really well. I think the best thing to do, though, is to time-lapse the next stage of today's video, where we actually get the setup laid out, get everything plugged in, and then we turn it on to set up the Elgato Facecam and Wave microphone. Let's do this. And with that, our setup is looking awesome. But does it actually work well for streaming, which is the whole reason we built it? Well, first off, let's test out the webcam and look at the microphone audio quality. In order to do this, I've downloaded Elgato's Camera Hub software, which we're going to use before jumping into Streamlabs OBS. This will let us configure up our Elgato Facecam first of all. So you can see here, you choose the input device. We've only got one Elgato Facecam. You can run multiple, which is very exciting. And then you've got all these controls, which may seem confusing at first, but I'm going to talk you through them all. By default then, the exposure is set to automatic. You can tune this up or down using the compensation slider, which basically adjusts the automatic choice to more of your liking. So if we needed to make it brighter, we can do, and likewise, if we wanted to make it darker, we can also do that. I think it's currently overexposing my face, so jump down to about -1.2 for me works really well. In fully manual mode though, it's really not too difficult to understand. You've simply got shutter speed and ISO. ISO is the first one you want to turn down, as this is the artificial light that's added by the camera. So the lower the ISO, the crisper in theory the image is. So we can tune that all the way down to 100 ISO, and that's looking pretty good. We're still a little bit bright, so we can make the shutter speed a little bit quicker. I want to go left to do that, and that suddenly is the perfect image. Tweak your ISO in small intervals of 1 in fact, if you just want a little bit more or a little bit less brightness. So that's manual mode, and that gives you a really fine degree of control, the same you'd get with a normal camera. There are also some color controls, so straight off the bat, the image looks good, but it's a little bit too sharp for me. So I'm going to tune the sharpness down, not quite to 0 actually, that goes not sharp enough. So let's tune it up to 1 or 2, which seem like the perfect middle ground. Saturation is really going to affect the skin tone, so the less saturation you've got, the more black and white the image becomes, and the more you've got, the more you look like you're in a tropical climate. So we're going to tune that down, and it's just a case of keeping going until the image looks good to you. So about 60% works for me. Contrast then is the difference between the darkest and brightest parts of the image. A lot of you guys will know this, and we can tune this all the way up. It really crushes the blacks in the bottom part, and I actually think that looks a little bit better. I think the image is still a touch bright though, so we can tune the brightness down very slightly, and suddenly we've got pretty much a perfect image. Now there is a little bit of post-processing you can do, so if there's a bit too much noise in the image, you can use noise reduction. I don't think we have that problem here. We're only at 130 ISO. I've also downloaded in our toolbar section Elgato's Control Center. Now this links up with the KeyLights we've chosen, and you want to really control these in unison with the camera. So we can tune down the light a little bit, because I think my face is still a touch bright. We can tune that down on both of our lights, and you can see the impact of turning the lights off on the image. Suddenly my face is all horrible and dark and contrasty. Pop the lights on and you can see me a lot better. I think once I've done that, I've realized the lights are actually a little bit too bright. So let's turn those off and check the difference again. Off and on. Much, much better. Image looks great. You've also got some anti-flicker controls as well here. So if you're in a room with big fluorescent lights like we are, I've gone ahead and turned them off. Then you can remove the flicker in that sense as well. Once you've done that, then we can close the Elgato software and open up our streaming software of choice. So for us, that's OBS Streamlabs. So we just need to go ahead and load that up, and then we can simply add our video capture device down here, which is of course our Elgato Facecam. So just wait a moment for that to load in, and just like that, we're now into Streamlabs OBS. We can make this a little bit smaller in the corner and couple this up with a desktop capture to capture some gameplay. So let's do that now. So let's just shift OBS over to the left-hand screen and load up a game, let's say Apex Legends on our main display, and add that as a display capture. Once we've done that, the stream is going to be ready to go, which is very exciting, with of course our new and improved Facecam. And just like that, we're capturing Apex Legends in Streamlabs OBS with the Elgato Facecam Wave microphone. Doesn't get much better than that. It goes without saying as well that as much as this stuff is awesome for streaming, it's also going to be great for jumping on a Zoom call, a conference call, and you could really build the most OP work from home setup with a Wave 1 microphone or a Wave 3 microphone and an Elgato Facecam. For now though, I'm going to enjoy my game of Apex Legends, and I'll leave you with some lovely gameplay of us actually streaming away on this full setup. If you enjoyed this video, you know what to do. Thank you very much for watching though, and as always, we'll see you in the next one.